If you were lucky enough to get a copy of it, if you haven't, you need to go order it right now. The Small and Mighty Real Estate Investor. You're going to see a concept in there that is critical, in my opinion, and that is the craftsman mindset. We're lucky enough to have Coach Carson here. We're going to talk about what it is, why it is important. But again, go order the book right now. Coach, what do you got?
Hey, Michael. Well, when I was writing the book, I thought back to my old days playing football, actually. So I'm a sports guy. And to me, the ultimate value of sports is it's entertaining, right? But it's also the metaphor for what it means to the rest of our life. And what I noticed in sports was that if you had a coach, you had somebody who's kind of teaching you how to do the game, you might have a goal to win a championship. That's the equivalent of financial freedom for us. But the focus of any good coach worth their salt was the fundamentals and focusing on the craft of being a good sports player. In my case, football. So like I was a linebacker. If I wanted to be a really good linebacker, we did things like focus on conditioning, footwork, watching game film so we can get pattern recognition. We'd work on the weight room. So like each one of those things, if you think about it in the sports context, is a skill that when you put it together, you can use in a game, and you can use techniques, and you can use fancy offensive plays. And the equivalent of that, though, that I see, like take the reverse of that. If you were a football coach who just focused on these fancy plays and said, hey, we're going to throw these 60-yard passes, or we're going to do this fancy thing, that's the equivalent in real estate investing and finance of just focusing on the technique, the latest, greatest. Hey, subject to is the best thing. If you just do subject to, or if you just do burst strategy over the last few years, or if you just do house hacking, like there's nothing wrong with all the strategies. They're great. But what I have found, my experience in sports, and this is 100% relevant as a business owner, as a real estate investor, is that you have to focus on the skills themselves. And I use a term, the craftsman mindset, but it's a focus on mastery of those skills, as opposed to just dabbling and, oh, this skill is going to bail me out, I'm going to do this skill. The people who really are amazing at anything have a craftsman mindset. They focus on the joy of just enjoying doing the little things, doing the work, and then they focus on getting better at it. And if you do that, the money follows, the deals follow. But it's you have to get that order right. Otherwise, you're kind of you're focusing on things that don't really matter.
I'm so glad you had this in the book, because it's something that I've been struggling with putting a name to. And I think the craftsman idea is the right one. Real estate investing is a set of skills. And as I've seen over 20 plus years now, there are times where one skill, one activity has the time in the sun. You can think sub 2 today. You can think Burr before. You can think flip. I mean, they all have their time. But there's also a time when the sun sets. And if that's all you have and all you know, one of two things will happen. Either A, you won't do any deals, or B, you'll do bad deals and go bust. Right? So you really have to treat real estate investing as a skill. And I would argue both of us are still learning. There's always more and more things that we can learn and do and grow. It just offers so many things. And I think it is the mindset of being the craftsman, trying to continually appreciate the skill, the blocking and tackling, the footwork, the conditioning, just the pieces that don't look sexy game day, but are critical game day.
Yeah, I was just listening to a kind of summary of an autobiography of Kobe Bryant, who's a basketball player, and Kobe was the ultimate skill, like craftsman as a basketball player. Like he loved the game. Like he was obsessed with it. And the interesting thing about his biography is what that means in the rest of your life when you're obsessed about one thing. But Kobe was amazing in that he focused on the fundamentals, the skills, putting those together. And then when he got on the court, people were like, "Oh, you're amazing! Look how great you do." But he and Michael Jordan would always say, "No, look, I shot thousands of free throws. I shot thousands of 3-point shots. I was doing conditioning 2 hours before everybody else was." And so I just challenge people to think about what's the equivalent of that. Like how bad do you want this game? How bad do you want to be a real estate investor? And if you just want to dabble in it, then like, all right, go read a book about the latest strategy and hope that kind of gets you something. But if you really, really want to get good, I'll just give you an example of some of the things you really need to focus on. If you want to apply, like if you today with interest rates higher than what cap rates are on rental properties, how can you make this work? You've got to double down on the skill of deal analysis. Correct. Deal analysis, looking at the fundamentals of what makes a good deal, how do you run the numbers, and then focus on the next skill, negotiation. How do you actually negotiate a deal below the full value of the property, or with terms that allow you to borrow low and then rent high. Like, so those are the outcomes we want. We want to get good deals, but the skills of deal finding and understanding finance and negotiation, those are things you have to practice. And if you and I, Mike, if you and I were coaching somebody who was sitting there trying to get better at this, what I would do is I would say, like, all right, let's test your skills as a deal analysis. Let's test your skills. Let's practice this negotiation. And I'm willing to bet most people who are frustrated, who aren't getting many results, have really flabby skills as a deal analysis person and as a marketer. It's all that. So there's nothing wrong with that. Like, we all get flabby.
Oh yeah.
But the point is, you got to get in the gym. Like, you got to go work out. You got to practice these skills and stop focusing on the next shiny object and just get down to the business of being a good real estate investor.
Yeah. One of the things I would tell a student to do, and I tell them to do this all the time, especially when it's hard, like today, is, okay, well, let's figure out how hard is it? So you find a property, 123 Main Street, you do the math, it's a 2% yield. I'm just making stuff up. Okay, great. Congratulations. Now what? Now what to me would be, okay, how do you turn a 2% yield into a 6? And more importantly, how many different ways can you turn it into a 6? Okay, great. You can offer less money. Okay, great. That's one way. But what else could you do? Could you pay list price, structure the debt in a way? Yeah, you could, but what's that look like? There's just so many different ways you can tackle a deal. And you're right. It's not about, I can't tell you how many people tell me there's no deals today. I'm like, yeah, there's no deals in the MLS at list price. But do you know what price you can pay to make it a deal? Write those offers, right? It is the second best year to find motivated sellers since, and the best year was 2010. They're out there, and I'm getting notes almost every day. I just congratulated 7 people today for getting a deal, right? I do this on my daily financial news. I read their names and send them a card. They're out there. It takes work, but they're out there. So just do the work, believe in yourself, test yourself, have the craftsman mindset. It is a skill. Yeah, it's all there for you.
Well said. I don't think I have anything to add to that, Michael. But I think let's just people should get out there and let's do the work and let's make it happen. And well, your results will follow.
Do yourself a favor, folks. For Christmas, go buy yourself the Small and Mighty Real Estate Investor and One Rental at a Time. It would be a great stocking stuffer. Both Coach Carson and I would greatly appreciate it. Chad, where can people find you?
If you look for Coach Carson anywhere online, I'm there. YouTube is where I hang out a lot, but you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and my email list. If you go to coachcarson.com, I send an email newsletter out every Tuesday morning. So I'd love to connect with you.
Thank you, buddy.
Thank you.